friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop. It's been a while and I apologize for not putting out more repair videos lately. Just been crazy busy with all the other stuff that you've been seeing on the channel. I'm going to read you a letter from a satisfied customer on a repair that I did back in around June time frame. And it goes like this. Jerry, Merry Christmas. Thank you very much for fixing my guitar, First Light. He goes on to say, it really came out nice, the setup is amazing, and yes, I can barely see anything on the top. The missing parts you fixed came out great. And then he provides me some additional history on the guitar. The guitar is called a Truax guitar, and they do have a website, I believe, so you could look that up, Truax Guitars. So we'll get right into the video. Hope you enjoy it. This guitar is a father and son maker. According to the customer, I believe they're in Canada. Don't know much about it. There's the label on the inside. I'll let you just look at that and get a nice look at it. I tell you, I probably should have let you hear it. It is a very nice sounding guitar. The action on it is really bad. I'm going to set the action up really nice. But right now what we're working on is a little finish issue and some chip out here. The pearl is missing right here. If you can see that, I'm not sure if that's going to show up real well. A piece of ebony missing right here and a piece of shell missing right here. And then this, it's kind of rough. This crack that happened right here, it's just, you know, it's got everything messed up. This has already been repaired, so he wanted me to try to get this where you can't see it, and of course that's what you want to do, but you know, I gotta be honest, that's gonna be nearly impossible because it's already been repaired and there, you know, the finish is clear and the wood is that color it is, and it's just gonna be hard to do much with that. But the best I can do maybe is to, you know, get over it, fill it smooth and clean it up, and it'll be smooth, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna still see it. You won't feel it so much. Right now you can really feel it. It's really bad in here and all over. So we'll try to work on more of the feel and just make sure that it's good and stable. But we are gonna fix these little issues right here, and that's what I'm working on. I've taken this piece of shell and you know, with a face mask on and a Dremel tool, and then I started, you know, shaping it here. Started shaping it like this so that it will fit this curve, and I've got it pretty close and I'm getting ready to cut it off, and you know, it probably needs a little bit more work, but I'm gonna do that by hand, just with little files and things to make that final fitting here. So I'm gonna put my face mask back on, saw off this pearl. I just sawed it almost all the way through and then broke it off because I didn't want it to fall on the floor. Now I'm going to have to use hand files and things and just keep hand fitting it until we get it in there. It's a little thick on this one end, so I'm going to take it off with this. Let's see how close we are to fitting up. It's getting close, but it's not quite there yet. I think I'm just going to go ahead and use the Dremel tool because it's so much faster. One of the problems with this is that the piece that's in there has a little bevel on it, and it's not perfectly flat down, so it's hard to match something up to that. Going to see if I can knock off a little bit of that inside there. That will be hard to do. It's kind of, I guess it's chipped on the top side and left it down is the problem. I don't know if I can do that. Yeah, it's probably going to be about all I can do. There's not much there I can work with there. It's still probably a hair thick. I'm going to try the sander a little more, put on the face mask again. It's difficult to work on this little stuff like this. It's difficult to hold. You know, if you were set up for this type of operation, it'd be a little different. I don't have all the right stuff. Since we're just doing a one-off piece, I just do it just quick and dirty. I think it might actually go in there now. Just trying to make the end match a little bit better. Getting pretty darn close. It's just a hair long. I wish I could take it off of that piece, but it's almost impossible to do.
It's so close that it's hard to even fathom.
Pretty darn close. I don't know if that's it or not, but it's pretty darn close. Feels like there's just a little something in the way. Incredibly close to going. It's actually it does actually go in there. It just doesn't quite feel right yet, but it's really close. I think we're going to call that good and glue her in place. I think that's going to be it. I know this says this stuff's for plastic, but I have a feeling this is going to work great for this too. So I'm just going to stick it in here. It says it glues plastic to almost anything, so to me this is almost anything. I like this stuff because it's a water cleanup and you don't have to worry about messing up your finish or anything else. And now why doesn't it go down in there? It went down in there every time until I put the glue in. And now it's not going. There it is. Well, I think that might answer what the problem is. It may be a little long yet. But it's going. I think I've got it in there now. It's in there pretty tight. It's a little bit proud of the other surfaces, but not much. Just making sure I've got it pressed in real good. It's pretty good. I'm going to call that good enough. This piece of shell here feels like it's actually raised up a little bit. And we've got to fill in a piece of ebony in this slot here. Fix this little ebony piece that's missing. I just got an old fretboard cut off here, and it's way too big. I don't need anything near this big, but it's just wasted wood, so I might as well use it for something. Just putting an arch in it to see if it matches the arch there, and it looks like it matches it pretty close. Maybe could use a little bit more arch. That looks pretty close. I think I'll just take this to the bandsaw and just saw the arch on the outside there. And it'll be plenty long. I'll just use this cut off piece right here, and that should work. So I've got this piece of ebony worked down pretty small. It's not quite small enough. I think it might be narrow enough, but I'm trying to get the ends of this piece that's in there squared off, because they're not square, they're broke at an angle, and it's a lot easier to match up if they're square. Thanks to my buddy Charles for sending me the scalpel handle. He sent me a couple scalpel handles and 100 blades. Appreciate that, Charlie. Something like this, they come in very handy. That looks pretty good. Might be able to get it in there now. So I think what I'll do now is slice off a thin, this is way too tall. You can see it's curved, but it's just too tall this way. So I'll have to slice it down and see if I can get that to fit in there then. He wants me to try to fix this crack, and it's not going to be easy to do, but I'm going to try to blend it and blend all this mess here because this is all unlevel. And so I'm going to start here and blend it through this whole area. The piece of shell I put in is a little bit tall, so we can cut that down and get rid of all of this stuff in this area here. I have 600 paper. There's a clear pick guard that goes right in here too, so it's kind of awkward. You know, if that wasn't there, it'd be a lot easier. I don't know, it is what it is. We'll just see what we can do with it. Again, the finishing and repair finishing and stuff like that, especially on clear, is definitely not my strongest suit. Pretty sure I can make it look a little better, but I doubt I can improve it very much. This here is not sanding very fast. I think I'm going to have to go to a little heavier sandpaper just to knock this piece down that I put in there, and then we'll go with something else. Back to a regular, I don't know what that is. That might be a 320. And anyway, I'm going to sand just this piece here with my finger just to get it down level, because it's way higher. And when I say way higher, I'm talking just thousandths, but you can feel it. And so it needs to be down to the same level as the rest of the shell, and then after that we can see what we can do. Just getting rid of that with a damp cloth so that that dust doesn't get everywhere. Yeah, that's much better, but it still needs a little bit of work. And that crack goes through this sound hole here too, that cracks, so it's kind of nice to use this heavier paper on this anyway to get a lot of this leveled out, because it's pretty bad. And I'm trying to stay off of that pick guard, that plastic pick guard, but that may not be possible. And then I'm going to just go ahead and bring it on up through here where this other break is, because there's a lot of ugly stuff here. I don't know what this spot is right here where it's been mashed down, but that doesn't look very good. It's kind of dark. I don't know if I can make that go away or if I'm going to end up making that look worse. I don't know. But this crack definitely needs to be sanded out level, because it's definitely not level now. See, then this spot right here, you can see it almost looks like a fingerprint down in there, which I don't know what that's from. I don't know though. I have a feeling that it's going to either still be visible or get worse. Wow, that's good. You can't really hardly feel it now compared to the way it was, that's for sure. It's a little better than I was expecting, but it's not quite as good as I would like either. Let's see what we can do about putting some finish back over that, because I think that's pretty smooth now. It doesn't look like it left any big scratches. That sandpaper I was using was pretty fine. There's a few little niches out of here, but not much I can do about that. Maybe we can fill it with finish. I'm using the Minwax sanding sealer again. We can only put on little coats at a time with this stuff. It goes on very thin. We'll have to put on 4 or 5 coats like that, sand it off, buff it out, and I think it's going to look much better. It already does look better to me. I think it's definitely an improvement. We just can't make the line completely disappear because it wasn't glued tight enough when it was glued. But not bad. Not bad. It's not horrible. You can only do what you can do. This is about the 3rd or 4th coat of this stuff. I'm giving it about 30 minutes to dry. It dries pretty fast. The problem I'm running into is there's some deep holes. This spot here that looked like a fingerprint is pretty deep, so I'm letting it just kind of well up there. This stuff sands pretty good, so I'm not too worried about the fact that it's, you know, going to be thick in places. I'm hoping to fill these big voids, so I'm putting it on pretty heavy actually, because it's not going to fill otherwise, and even that's not going to fill. It's just going to, I know how this stuff works, it's just going to thin back out, and it just takes forever to fill low spots with lacquer. But I've got it on, that's a pretty darn heavy coat, and so we'll just let that sit there for a little bit. There's right there, could use some more. And that, I've got it on there pretty heavy, but even that's going to just dry up real thin again. But I'll do that about 5 or 6 more times and try to build it up enough that we can at least get a fairly level surface. There might be a little undulation to it, but hopefully it's not a deep hole, kind of like these pits and holes are. Well, I was just talking to you and you weren't paying any attention at all, mostly because I didn't have the camera on. But I was just saying that this is actually blended out pretty good now. It's pretty level. You don't feel anything. But this is a piece I didn't put in here. This piece of shell that's in here has got a little dip in it right there. I don't know why, but there's a little bit of a dip right in there in the finish. But that was already there apparently. Other than that, it's fine. I don't see any problem at all. So I'm just going to buff this out now, and then we're going to set it up and call her done. I've dampened the end of this down, put a little bit of the polish on here, and we'll start polishing her out. The cool thing about this polish is it will polish the plastic too, so if I'm on top of that plastic, I don't care too much because it'll polish it out. Still not shining up though, it's still dull. Just looks like a satin finish right now, which I don't want that. I want a polished finish. Well, that's better. Still not quite what I want. Each one gets a little bit better, so I guess I'll just keep doing it. Yeah, that's almost blended now. One more time I think with this, and then we'll wax it. That looks pretty good. It's almost blending back to the natural sheen. Not quite, I'm not going to say it is, but it's pretty close. I think the wax here might take it the rest of the way. At least I hope it does. Even the wax itself will, you know, buff something out a little bit, so I'm trying to get pretty vigorous with it. It's still, to be truthful, a little bit dull compared to the surrounding finish, but not bad. Anyway, it looks, in my opinion, it looks much better than it did. See if you can see there. It used to, you know, there was a big dent there, big, it was pretty noticeable before. And it's, you know, you got to be looking for it now. I don't think you can just see it, you know, from a little ways away. You're just not going to see it, I don't think. So we're going to call that good. I don't want to spend much more time on that, and we'll go ahead and do a setup on this, because this guitar, the setup on it is very high, and then we'll play it for you and let you hear it, because it's a good sounding guitar. I've pointed out in other videos, but since we're on the subject here, this is very loose. See how loose it is and how it flops? And there is a pickup under there, and I guess, or at least I guess that's a pickup. Yeah, it must be, because they have an end pin here. But that pickup is not really the problem. It's the width of the slot. The width of this slot is just way too big for this. And I say way too big. You know, I'm going to guess, well, it's pretty much, I'd say 15 thousandths to 20 thousandths bigger than this is. let's see how accurately we can check that. It's hard to check that really in a little tiny slot like this to be very accurate, but 135 thousandths is my first measurement. Let's just check it a couple more times. 136 thousandths, so that's pretty close. 135 or 4 thousandths. So we'll just say 135 thousandths. Okay, so let's see what this is. This is 126 thousandths, so it's about 10 thousandths too small. I would have guessed more than that. It looks more than that to me. I would have guessed more like 15 thousandths. It definitely looks way too small. 125 thousandths roughly, so it's about 10 thousandths too small. So we're going to make a new one of these, and I think we're going to lower it also. I should have really checked the height of this and got a good measurement on it before I unstrung it, but I didn't. So we'll have to probably string it up, but I'm probably going to make the new one, a little bit lower than this one too, because I'm pretty sure the action is high here at the 12th fret. Another tip I believe I've shown before is I put the saddle, after I get the saddle made, I put it down in the slot, make sure I got it all the way down in there, then I take a real sharp pencil and put a little fine line across, and then after I do that, then you can see that that line is the same depth. That means that your saddle went all the way down. A lot of times there's little shelves and things in these things, and they'll catch on one side or the other, and you don't realize it. Well, this one is a perfect example. There's a major shelf in there, and I really had a tough time getting this saddle down in there. I don't think I can show that on the camera, but there is a definite shelf. In other words, what they probably did was they probably routed this. I'm going to guess they routed it like 3 times to get it to the size and shape they wanted. There's a little tiny shelf right up at the top lip. Then there's another small shelf down at the bottom lower left corner down there. And there was a little shelf here too, but I took my X-Acto knife and got in there and scraped them out the best I can. And I can get this down in there now, but it's not simple, but it does go, and it does go all the way down in there, and there it is. It's all the way down in there, and I've got that line to make sure that it's all the way down in there too. So now I've got to profile this to the profile that was on this one here, and that's not that hard, but it just takes a little time. So we'll do that and bring you back when we get her set up. I just took a file and profiled this the way that the other one was profiled. This is the original, and you can see that they match pretty close. And the difference is this one's about 10 thousandths thicker, which fits the slot much, much better. In fact, it fits it really well, assuming I can get it all the way down in there, which you can hear it click on that shelf, like, whenever it clicks past that shelf. And it's down in there now. It's not that it's that crazy tight, it's just that that little extra shelf holds it in there tighter. But it doesn't wiggle now. You can see there's no wiggle to it at all like it was wiggling. It was just flopping back and forth before. If I didn't say before why that's important, when they lean forward like that, when there's wiggle room in there and the strings continually pull them forward, they act like a lever and they will crack your bridge right across here. And you've seen bridges cracked across there, and that's what that's from. It's from that leaning forward, pulling that saddle forward, and it acts just like a wedge. You get 6 strings on there, that's a pretty strong lever. That's a pretty strong lever pulling forward. We're going to concentrate on the nut end of this guitar. The nut's nice, but it's real abrupt, real squared off. I think the nut is perfectly salvageable, but it's just not made the way I would make a nut. It's rough, your hands feel it, and it's just squared off and cornerish, if you will. And the slots are pretty darn deep too, so the slots don't need to be that deep. We're going to just cut it all the way down and make the slots shallower, round it all off. It'll just be a much better job. Yeah, that's really tall, and it's taken a lot to file it down. I thought that file would be coarse enough, but I'm going to go to a heavier file just to get it done. It's looking a lot better. We're just about there now. I think I'll just stop at that. That's pretty good. That'll do where it's at, but we can always make it a little better. Use these smaller files now. And now I'm rounding over this front corner here. I've got my thumb there so I don't come down and hit the peg head. It's a little rough on your thumb until you get used to this kind of thing. Yeah, that's much better. It's nice, got a nice round to it. Now this file has a smooth edge here, and that smooth edge is going down to the fretboard. I'm not touching the fretboard, but if I do, it shouldn't hurt it too much. And then I'm going to just knock off this real sharp corner on the front edge here. I'm not trying to bevel a big bevel, just get rid of the real sharpness. Okay, and that's much better. And then the last thing is just these corners, and these aren't too bad because they're beveled back a lot, but there's still sharpness on these corners. And so I'm just going to turn the file a little bit and just knock those corners off. And this nut is actually floating in there. It's loose, but it's in a real tight groove, so I don't think I need to glue it or anything. We'll be cutting the slots probably deeper anyway, and we may have to file some more off the top of the nut later, but right now we're going to go ahead and string it up, and well, no, we're going to level these frets lightly to see what we got. I was looking down this fretboard, and I'm going to look down it right now. When I look down this fretboard, I see a fairly large hump right in here. It's a pretty big hump, actually. So on this side, not so much. Not on the treble side as much, but on the bass side, it's a pretty big hump. And I'm just looking to see if the frets are down in there. The frets look like they're in there okay, but this bass side definitely looks like a large hump, like about from here to about to here somewhere. In case you think I make these things up, you know, I've already filed a lot of this down right here, and even after a lot of filing, and I'm talking quite a bit. As a matter of fact, if you look at it there, you can see how flat these are right in. You can probably see how flat these are right in this area here. I've really flattened them off a lot. And even after that, put the straight edge on here, and when I press down here, watch how it raises up here at this end. You can see it raising up over here at the nut end. See how much it raises? So there's still a significant height, and it's right in here. So, and the reason that matters is when you try to get the action low here, it's going to buzz right here. So, you know, you got to get that out of there. Fortunately, it's got some pretty big frets on it, so we can knock these down, recrown them, and it'll be fine. I felt like that was starting to glide better, so I think we're getting close. Yeah, it's lifting, but not near as much. And it's this fret right here that's still high. Yeah, that's almost perfect now. It's got maybe just a fraction, but you know, compared to where we were, see, it doesn't lift at all right here. No problem. Little bit of a lift still, but it's so close now. Alright, so now I think it's going to be fine. I can feel it gliding. Yeah, it's fine now. So it's good now. Now we just got to recrown them all. Another thing, these frets are real straight off, and I'm taking the fret file, and I'm really working hard on the corners. And that's even before I try to recrown them. I'm just trying to get rid of this sharp edge on the ends. And up here, the best I can do up here, really, realistically, is to just 45 them a little bit with this, round them a little bit. It's going to be a real pain to recrown these up in here because they're so flat. One more tip, when you have to grind frets this flat, you know, like the medium file worked on the rest of them, but it's not going to work up here. They're just too big and wide and flat. So I'm putting the extra wide tip on here. Now the problem with doing that is that it's the edges would come down and hit the fretboard. A long time ago, I sanded the edges off of just the edges off of this. So the round crowning thing is still in the middle, but the edges are sanded off so that I can use it on lower frets that need a wider crown. That looks good. I think that's going to be fine. Now we'll buff them out, polish them up a little bit, oil the fretboard, and string it up. This guitar has really nice string pegs, but they're all blunt on the end, and it's a little hard to push past the ball on the string. So I bevel them all off. As you can see the difference, there's a before and here's an after of the bevel. And that bevel really does help you go past this string ball there, and it doesn't get caught up so much. And then, I always pull these up real tight like this to make sure I've got them up tight against the bridge plate as I put the string ball down in there. And I'll do that on each one of these. Again, I'm just beveling off the corners, the front edge here where the groove is. See, even if they're beveled, they're a little hard to get past sometimes. Depends on the guitar, and this is a really thick bridge and all that, so beveling them really does help. This is a handmade guitar, and I don't mean to pick it apart. That's not the issue, but I just show you some of the things that you do run into sometimes, and that is that you notice the distance here, and then these two are basically touching each other if you look at that. And of course that's just the way they made it, and I noticed, I was looking at how close these strings were back here compared to the other strings. I said, well, those look a lot closer together. So I just kind of fudge it a little bit. I'm pushing that one over a little bit. I'm pushing this one back this way a little bit. When we tighten them down, that'll help a little bit. But the problem is that this right here is the problem. So I'm just spreading them out as much as I can. That won't help a whole lot because they'll pull back straight to them for the most part. Thought I'd use my handy dandy string height tool, and you can see it's about 31 thousandths. It's moving, there's 31, and it's jumping up to 0, so there's 31 thousandths, 32 thousandths play in that. I knew it was very high. Here's my 18 thousandth pick, and of course you can lay it there, and you can play the string and it doesn't even buzz till you really start hitting it hard, of course. So it's obviously very high. We can take that down, no problem. The string, these string grooves are filed pretty flat too, so I'm going to give them a little more angle. Using the pick is a much faster way of checking it than using the gauge, but the gauge is very accurate. Okay, there it is. Let's see what the gauge says now. Okay, now it's down to 15 thousandths, and if we press it down now, we're going 15 to 90. Let's move this to 20 here and see about if that helps. So it's about 22 thousandths right now, it looks like. I would say that's about right because I can still move it just a hair. I'm also widening this out just a little bit. I don't like the strings to ever catch in these slots. That's just about perfect right there. I don't see it move at all, and I don't see the string raise up when I put that in there. I would say that's got to be real close to 18 thousandths. So if we check it here, this should tell us exactly what it is. Let's put it on 0, and we press it down. That's about 16 thousandths, 15 thousandths, something like that. About 15 thousandths is where it's at right now. and that's fine. This one's quite high. Let's see what we got on the next one. So let's move it up to 50, and then we can kind of subtract easier. It's going to about 8, so 42 roughly. 42 is the height on that right now, so when you press it down, and I would say that's probably about right, because you can play it and you can see the pick is under there and it doesn't make any noise. Well, that's enough. I just wanted to show you how well this does work and how well this works, method 2, and this is much faster, but it's this is much more accurate. So it just depends what you're going for at the time. Well, I go for speed most of the time because I feel like I'm very accurate with this, but I'm also very fast. So I go for speed most of the time. This is at 110 right on this side. Over here we're right on the 90, which is just perfect for me, I think. We're right on the 90 here, so I'm good here. On this side, a little high though. It's 100 goes under there and it still just moves. 115 doesn't quite go under there without moving the string a little bit. So I'm going to call it 110. I want it to go to 80, so that's a difference of 30. So we'd have to lower this saddle on this side only about 60 thousandths. So we're going to go from 0 to 60 thousandths on the bottom of the saddle, and that means we have to unstring it again here, but that's okay. That's what we do. So I've blacked out this treble side here down on the bottom edge, and I've already got this set at 60,000, but technically it's 59.5 thousandths if you're counting, and because it's just hard to get it perfect. And I'm scratching the mark there, and so I'm going to go from 0 to that, and we should be good then. Well, we finished the setup on this Truax guitar, and when I say Truax, the guys' names that built it are Adam and Charles Truax, Truax, and of course they do a play on that, and they call them Truax guitars. And with a last name like Truax, you would think you would have to build instruments, wouldn't you? But anyway, it's a nicely made guitar. It sounds good. I'm positive it's never been set up this well. It's now at 90 thousandths all the way across here. It's at below 18 thousandths all the way across here. We filed this nut way down. We made a new saddle and put in there that's a much better saddle. We fixed the crack that was broke through here and filled in the missing components here, which was some pearl and abalone. So it's up in very, very good shape. Here's a little bit of what she sounds like. It's got a nice sound. Play much on one, but I can do the chords.
From where I stand I can see all the lights of the city. For one man to love one woman so much it's a pity. From where I stand I can see the cantina she goes to, where she's not supposed to, but goes anyway. From where I stand I can hear the music and laughter. Camilla tells me that's what her young heart is after. I see it differently, I see her there with a man. Camilla see it from where I stand. Camilla is lying, I see it from where I stand. That's a little song I wrote that I had intended to send to Marty Robbins, but I never did get that done. Rest in peace, old Marty Robbins. I thought he might like that song. Hope you enjoyed the tips and tricks on this setup and enjoyed the fix here on the finish. It's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. It's much better than it was when it got here. And certainly all the fill that we filled in around there and everything. So thanks for watching. Tell your friends. Click that thumbs up button. And if you don't already, click the subscribe and then click the bell so you'll get a notice. Thanks. Bye.